Now, of course, we see prices trending higher again, especially in the wake of OPEC's decision to cut production.
A new report on wage inflation in the U.S. shows while inflation is slowing, costs are continuing to climb.
Inflation numbers out this morning that could signal where the economy is headed. Yes, we have had a steady stream of bad news and rising prices.
Economic crisis affects all Americans regardless of their financial status. The last few years have been extremely hard for the country and left deep scars on the U.S. society. It does not matter whether you're a billionaire or poor because the economy is destroying the country and the American dream. So in this video, we'll cover 20 facts that the American society is collapsing. But before jumping to the first point, consider supporting our channel by subscribing. Don't forget to hit this notification bell so you never miss any uploads. So without any delay, here are 20 points that American society is collapsing. Number 1. Unaffordable housing. Housing is considered the backbone of American society, yet in the last few decades, purchasing a home has become a luxury. The average sales price of houses in the United States in 20 years has doubled. As a result, more than half of Americans can't afford to buy a home. This leaves a significant burden on future generations as they will not be able to form solid households, much needed for a healthy society. Number 2, poverty. The U.S. Census Bureau reports that 11.6% of Americans live in poverty, which amounts to nearly 40 million people. However, it's important to note that this figure is based on an official poverty measure that hasn't been updated significantly since the 1960s. This suggests that the actual number of people living in poverty may be even higher. Number 3, food insecurity. The USDA states that over 33 million individuals, including 5 million children, lack access to sufficient food. This issue affects all communities, with rural areas, families, and children, and communities of color being especially impacted. According to Feeding America, 72% of families who rely on its affiliated food banks have an annual household income of $9,000 or less. Number 4, expensive healthcare. The U.S. has the most expensive healthcare, which undermines the foundations of society. The average healthcare expenses per person in the U.S. in 2021 were over $12,000, significantly higher than Germany's $7.3 thousand, a 40% difference. However, despite the high cost, the U.S. falls behind other countries in life expectancy and health insurance coverage. Number 5, crushingly expensive senior care. According to the National Investment Center for Seniors Housing and Care, the average cost for assisted living facilities is $60,000 per year. If society doesn't look after its elderly, it's destined for collapse. Number 6, the rising cost for childcare. According to the Demanding Change report, the national average annual cost of childcare in 2020, latest data available, was over $10,000. This figure represents more than 10% of the median income for a married couple and more than 35% of the median income for a single parent. In addition, it's unimaginable to provide for a family with only one breadwinner in the household. Among married couple families with children, 97.4% had at least one employed parent in 2022, and in 65% of these families, both parents were employed. Number 7, astronomically expensive pharmacy. Depending on the country of comparison, U.S. residents are paying twice as much, 3 times as much, or even more for this prescription drugs. Research by Rand Corporation has found that U.S. prescription drug prices surpass those in 32 other countries by around 150% on average. Number 8, bankruptcies. However, the number of personal bankruptcy cases has declined in the U.S. since 2010. In 2022, there were over 370,000 cases of personal bankruptcy filed nationwide. According to a study, medical issues are the primary reason, as over 62% of people claim bankruptcy because they could not cover medical bills. Number 9, unaffordable education. Astronomically high college tuition prevents future generations from building successful careers and becoming wealthy. The average college tuition and fees at four-year schools in 2020 and 2021 was over $19,000. As a result, college tuition fees has nearly tripled in the past 50 years and more than doubled in the past 30 years. Number 10, student debt has become a heavy burden for the younger generation, with the total amount reaching an astonishing $1.75 trillion. Based on inflation-adjusted data from McKinsey, the average student debt has surged by 45%, while sticker prices have only gone up by 22%, and the weighted average cost of attendance increased by 14% from 2006 to 2016. Low wages. Although the unemployment rate in the U.S. is relatively low, it's harder to keep afloat with the current salary rates. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the unemployment rate rose by 0.3 percentage points to 3.7% in May. Bankrate reports that although wage growth reached its highest point in years during the pandemic, workers feel that their earnings are not keeping up with the unprecedented inflation. More specifically, 55% of employees stated that their incomes had not kept pace with the increasing expenses of everyday necessities and services. Number 12, wealth distribution. Society will eventually collapse if the majority of people don't get access to a decent quality of life. By the end of 2022, the wealthiest 10% of people in the United States possess 68.2% of the nation's total wealth. This is a slight decline from the previous quarter in 2021, when the top 10% held 69.6% of the total wealth. On the other hand, the wealth of the bottom 50% of earners has gradually increased since the beginning of the 2010s, although it remains low. Number 13, extinction of the middle class. The collapse of the middle class is one of the biggest challenges to the stability of American society. For the past 50 years, the financial situation of most American adults has worsened. According to a Pew Research Center analysis of government data, the percentage of adults living in middle-class households has dropped from 61% in 1971 to 50% in 2021. Number 14, aging workforce. OECD and Moody have projected that the U.S. workforce will shrink due to an aging population, with only 61.3% of U.S. population being of working age by 2029. Moreover, the number of retired American workers has increased, resulting in a 70% decrease in labor force participation since the end of 2019. Number 15, demographic crisis. America faces a demographic catastrophe like other developed nations. CDC reported a total fertility rate of 1,066 births per woman in 2021, which is a path to social and economic collapse. According to Bloomberg, tight labor market that's getting tighter, falling birth rates spell trouble for the world's largest economy. Number 16, lousy infrastructure. For the wealthiest country on earth, American citizens deserve a better infrastructure. Yet, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers' latest infrastructure report card, the overall grade for the nation's infrastructure has improved from a D+ to a C-. The report highlights modest and incremental improvements in several categories, such as railroads, drinking water systems, and inland waterways and ports. Number 17, unaffordable cars. The average car price is at an all-time high of $47,000. In today's economy, owning a car has become increasingly expensive due to supply chain disruptions and inflation. This has rendered it unattainable for many people. A recent survey revealed that roughly one-third of respondents who don't own a car expressed a wish to have one, but are unable to afford it in the current market. Number 18, upcoming recession. A further economic crisis will only worsen American society's condition. The Conference Board's leading economic index for the U.S. dropped for the 12th consecutive month in March, signaling a recession is set to hit in the middle of 2023. The Conference Board forecasts that economic weakness will intensify and spread more widely throughout the U.S. economy over the coming months, leading to a recession starting in mid-2023, said Justina Zabinska-Lamonica, Senior Manager of Business Cycle Indicators at the Conference Board. Number 19, high inflation. Increasing prices on goods and services has been destroying the family budgets of millions of households. Moreover, inflation tends to be more stubborn than many predicted. According to the latest data, in April 2023, prices had increased by 4.9% compared to April 2022. According to the 12-month percentage change in the Consumer Price Index, as a result, most Americans, 61%, have reported facing financial difficulties due to recent price hikes. This marks a 6% point increase from the previous reading in November 2022, is the highest percentage recorded since 2021 when Gallup began tracking this measure. Number 20, banking crisis. No modern society can survive a banking collapse. However, the U.S. banking sector has shown all the signs of a looming disaster. Over the weekend of March 10 to 12, Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank collapsed. These two bank failures are significant as they represent the biggest U.S. bank collapse since the global financial crisis in 2008. Washington Mutual failed. Moreover, a study reveals that 186 banks are at risk of impairment of $300 billion worth of insured deposits, which says a lot about the financial instability of the country. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed and let us know what you think on the subject in the comments section below.